Tonight, for the first time in more than 50 years, the Assad family's grip on Syria is over.
Opposition forces have declared the end of President Bashar al Assad's rule.
December 8, 2024, a date etched into the collective memory of Syrians, marking the end of the Ba'ath Party's tyrannical, decades-long regime led by the Assad family. Images of Bashar al Assad that line the streets, a reminder to Syrians that they were always being surveilled, were torn down. Ba'ath Party flags were replaced with the three-starred revolution flag. The Assad family's reign of terror had fallen, and a new era was awaiting Syrians. But what awaited the new leadership was a country shattered by war, corruption, and poverty. 1 year on, this is how Syria has changed. After former regime leader Bashar al-Assad fled to Russia, a power vacuum emerged. It was filled by a transitional government led by Ahmed al-Shara, who commanded opposition forces that liberated Syrian cities in the days leading up to December 8. The transitional authority moved quickly, dismantling the systems of oppression entrenched under Assad. The 2012 constitution was suspended, and parliament, the army, and security agencies were dissolved. As part of efforts to reverse years of repression, the government lifted Assad-era travel bans for around 5 million Syrians, restoring their right to move freely for the first time in decades. The new leadership held a national dialogue conference, inviting representatives from all communities as part of its commitment to rebuild Syria on the principles of free expression, human rights, and national unity. In March 2025, Ahmed al-Shara signed a constitutional declaration to govern the country for 5 years, after which elections are planned to establish a permanent government. That same month, al-Shara announced a new government, a 23-member cabinet representing Syria's religious and ethnic diversity. In October, Syria held its first post-Assad parliamentary vote. 2/3 of the People's Assembly were chosen through electoral colleges, with al-Shara appointing the rest. Their priority is to draft a new constitution by 2028.
وها هي سوريا اليوم تعود إلى موقعها التي تستحق بين العالم.
Al-Shara's speech at the United Nations General Assembly in September 2025 marked a historic moment for Syria. It was the first time since 1967 that a Syrian leader represented the Syrian people on the international stage. Determined to redefine the country after decades of authoritarian Ba'athist rule, the administration began forging renewed relationships, even with leaders who once backed Assad, including Russia's Vladimir Putin. Embassies have reopened and ambassadors have been appointed, easing Syrians' political isolation. Since December 8, the administration has been advocating for the removal of crippling sanctions imposed by the UK, EU, and US during Assad's rule to allow for much-needed economic development. Some sanctions, including those on Syria's central bank and energy sector, have been lifted, although those on chemical weapons, military goods, and individuals involved with the Assad regime are still in place. Around $15 million of Syria's debt to the World Bank have been repaid by Qatar and Saudi Arabia, enabling the country to access new funding. For decades, the tyrannical Assad family fueled sectarian division and followed a policy of divide and rule. Meanwhile, 14 years of war allowed Syria to become a playground for armed factions and extremism. Piecing together years of state-incited division was not going to be an easy task. To form a national army, all military groups were ordered to disband and integrate under the Ministry of Defense. But factions still operate, including the Syrian Democratic Forces dominated by the YPG, the Syrian arm of the PKK, which is considered a terror group by the US, EU, and Turkey. In a gesture of goodwill, an amnesty was offered to those who were conscripted in Assad's forces. However, regime loyalists remain a major challenge, launching repeated ambushes on transitional forces as it aims to consolidate authority. Outbreaks of sectarian violence have killed hundreds over the past year. Israel illegally annexed Syria's Golan Heights in 1981, and with the fall of Assad, set its sights on expanding its occupation of more land and ensuring Syria remains destabilized and its new government militarily weak. Just 2 days after the Assad regime collapsed, Israel went on a rampage, conducting 350 airstrikes on Syrian air bases, weapons depots, and production sites, ultimately destroying nearly all of the country's military capabilities. Israel then encroached further on Syrian territory to occupy a UN buffer zone and conduct military assaults in southern Syria, in a clear undermining of the country's sovereignty. At the same time, Israel has tried to weaponize sectarian divisions by exploiting Syria's Druze community, an ethno-religious minority largely concentrated in Sueda, portraying itself as their guardian to gain a foothold in the country's south. The little white pill known as Captagon funded Assad's war on his people and helped sustain his survival. Exports generated an estimated $5 billion annually and over the years turned Syria into a narco state. Millions upon millions of tiny pills weren't going to disappear overnight, and those who were cashing in on its profits weren't going to easily give up the trade. Syrian forces stepped up efforts to uncover, seize, and destroy Captagon production facilities and dismantle the drug enterprise. Hope has returned, but the scale of devastation across Syria is staggering. Years of war have devastated nearly every aspect of life for Syrians, and a strenuous road of rebuilding lies ahead. Reconstruction is estimated at $216 billion. The United Nations estimates 16.5 million people are in need, with around 14.5 million people facing food insecurity and 90% living below the poverty line. Since Assad's ouster, more than 1 million Syrian refugees who had fled abroad have returned, and over 1.9 million internally displaced people have returned to their homes. Almost 4 million refugees remain outside the country. But some wounds scarring Syrians are impossible to heal. The Assad era was marked by widespread atrocities, war crimes, forced disappearances, and systematic torture. Mass graves have been uncovered, yet the fate of tens of thousands of Syrians remains unknown. The search has been painfully slow, and hope is fading for many families. Transitional justice remains a central challenge as families continue to demand accountability for crimes committed under Assad. The former president's rule claimed the lives of over 500,000 Syrians, and the new government has repeatedly pledged that bringing those responsible to justice is a priority. It has begun to make good on that promise. Dozens of individuals who carried out the regime's dirty work have now been detained. Despite the trauma caused by years of Assad regime oppression, internal and regional threats, and widespread destruction, Syrians are pushing forward and embarking on a long and arduous journey to rebuild their country 1 year on.